Big Mecha. Greetings, everyone! This is Kensukere, aka Sean, here with a brand new episode of Big Mecha, but not huge. Today, I have my special, I guess you can call him my special friend. Ha ha ha. No, he is my definite very good friend, Wilhelm. Say hello, Wilhelm.
Hello, Wilhelm.
Glad to hear you. So, Will, how have you been doing last week? I know it's been a while since we recorded our 4-hour podcast.
That was a bit much.
You
uh,
think?
yeah, that was we might need to record earlier if we're gonna do that again.
I'm hoping that the next time that we record a special, it doesn't get to that long. I'm okay with 2.5, but if it goes to 4, the only good thing about that is that, hey, it's extra content that's going to go in the off review playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, everyone,
Uh,
we have started that new playlist. If you haven't already checked it out, it is called Off Review. It's basically anything that we happen to talk about that's not related to our current show that we're watching or any other movies that we end up doing any specials on. So be on the lookout for that because it was actually a lot of fun doing that, where we just talk about a lot about Transformers and licensing.
uh, Never a fun topic.
So, have you done anything mecha related in the last week?
Well, caught up on the episodes we were doing for this. Honestly, I haven't done anything else too mecha related. Although we were at a local store here, and I did find some model kits that are cool that I did not purchase, but they're on my radar, so it's a
Ooh,
maybe.
which ones?
From they're from I'm blanking on the name. Uh, Something of the stars. They're very big. They're really big, and they look almost like too thin to support their own weight.
Banner of the
They're really
Stars?
cool. Maybe I think it's that one.
Okay.
They have these very.
All right, sorry about that, folks. Anyways, you were mentioning Banner of the Stars.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Banner of the Stars. There's the local shop down here called K-Poppin' that they got a nice Gunpla section because they moved to a new location, so they've got a
Oh, did
lot of
they?
stuff. Yeah, they moved to what was a Petco and yearly turned into I think it was a Petco. It was big and yearly it turned into a Spirit Halloween, but now it's their new permanent location and they had enough stuff to mostly fill it, and they're just continually adjusting and they have a good thick mecha section. They have tons of plushes and stuff like that for like Pokemon and all that.
So I
Massive
finally
anime
went to
statues.
K-pop in like about if it wasn't the beginning of the year, it might have been last year. I don't remember. But when I did see them, they were in the middle of a mall. There was like no air conditioning in it, so it felt like going to MegaCon.
Yeah, the one where they were
um,
right next to like restaurants and
yeah, that
stuff.
one.
Yeah, that's their old location.
Oh, okay, cool.
They're
Didn't know that.
really close to the Florida Mall now. They're on the corner of Sand Lake and John Young. Or no, Sand Lake and OBT.
Very cool. I had no idea. That's awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, I found some Banner of the Stars in
Um,
there
so
and a couple other things too.
nice. So if you were to get anything new, is that something that you would be like your next thing to get?
To be totally honest, the two of the kits that they have, I am genuinely interested in. They're not super expensive. They started, Kotobukiya started reproducing them a couple of years ago, and that's what these are from. Because if they were original Banner of the Stars from like 30 years ago, they'd be, 3 digits or something. But they're from the reprints they
True.
were doing. One stack of them are called LED because they're all translucent pieces. So the whole thing you could rig with lights or put in an area where you have a bright light around it, and it would look really cool. And then the other one is the entire kit is an obnoxious neon orange color. And I
Oh my
think
god, what?
so I think in the show it was like a really bright yellowy gold type of thing going on. And I'm not really sure because I haven't watched Banner of the Stars, but for the model kit, the entire thing is like bright ass neon orange plastic. And then from there you can, paint it or put stickers and all that stuff. I really like that color of orange. It is like traffic cone. It is fantastic. That not used to seeing an entire kit based in that color. So,
I definitely gotta check it out. I actually own that series and I think the sequel series. So if anything, that could be one of the things that we could end up watching at a later point.
I'm okay with that. I would like to watch them. I know I always liked the designs because they're incredibly artsy. They just completely throw practicality out the windows and went the opposite direction. They're like, no, 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 we don't want it to have a story in its design. And I'm like, okay, I'm down with that. It's already a giant robot, and theoretically those don't work. So fine, I don't care.
True.
Because yeah, I have a friend who has repeatedly said giant robots are cool, but a terrible idea because they can't support their own weight. It's literally physics says no. So
That's true.
why they work in outer
So
space?
I I I watched something somewhat mecha related, and you're not gonna guess as to how.
Oh, you finally going back, breaking out the chicks dig giant robots. You and I dig giant robots because I don't even
No.
know where we would find that, but get on that Cartoon Network. Stop being stupid and just release that thing on Blu-ray.
Man, they just need to re-release Megas XLR. But anyways,
Such a good show.
um, no, I went and watched the new Alien Romulus movie.
Did you? Katie has
I did.
we can't watch it in theaters, too scary, but she wants to watch it.
It's a pretty scary
It
movie.
looks like they leaned heavily into the first one. This I was being uncharitable. I would say this feels like a remake of the original, but I think they're more going for the feel of the original because they're not legitimately making it like a prequel or something stupid. So,
So you know who made this one?
was it the original director?
No, it's the guy who did the 2013 Evil Dead movie.
Yeah, so on that note, from what I've heard from fans, the guy who did the original films lost his touch. Because the last like two things he made, people
Yeah.
really didn't like. People didn't like the white alien in the last one, and they didn't like the massive explanation of the world of Alien in with that giant engineer alien thing. People didn't like that movie either. Prometheus. People didn't like that one either.
Okay,
So,
so Prometheus people are 50-50
hmm,
on. I'm actually one of the on the side of 50-50 that where it's good. I really enjoy that movie. It just has a lot of questions that it asks and it doesn't answer any of
that's
them.
stupid.
And
So what's
then
the point?
it was written by the guy who did
Oh,
Lost.
speaking of,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
gonna be
But then the
cerebral.
next movie, Alien Covenant, that one, I don't know who wrote that one, but that one was not a well received movie. That one was pretty awful. And I don't remember if it answers any questions that Prometheus
I
posed,
doubt
but
it.
honestly, Prometheus is actually a really good movie. And the thing about this movie, without spoiling anything, it connects to both the original Alien and Prometheus.
So from going by the previews, it looked heavily like it connected to the original because it did look like they were. It's still Wayland Yutani doing their thing because that's what they do, but it looked a lot
Hmm.
like it was supposed to be a follow-up, and then they're like, okay, follow-up, but we're gonna make it scary again. We're gonna make the alien dangerous, horrifying, cool, all at the same time. Like we're gonna really make it like the characters don't want to die, and that they would really prefer not to be in this incredibly claustrophobic space. So,
So it is a direct follow up to the first one.
hmm.
I think I'm not entirely sure. I have to look it up, but I think it takes 20 years. It
Hmm.
takes place 20 years after the first movie,
Always
and
weird about time in that
maybe
series.
40 years before the next one. Because the next one is technically Aliens.
I don't remember the
So,
timeline. The first movie
um,
is the
but even
beginning of
so,
their timeline.
I the way that I'm making it mecha adjacent is the fact that obviously it's got androids in the movie. But that's the only way that it's mecha adjacent.
Well,
Even
space
so,
sci-fi.
it's a fantastic movie, and I think people should definitely watch
Hmm.
it.
It is space sci-fi, and as somebody who's really likes aliens as a premise, they're very cool. Their xenomorphs are awesome. They're super fun.
Hmm.
I enjoy all the separate media. I like all of the comic book stuff they've done with them. The Batman v Predator v Alien is a fun, silly comic to read. Pretty much anything involving predators and aliens in comics is really, really fun. Uh, but
Oh, that reminds me. Have you watched Prey?
is that the newest Predator movie?
Yeah, it came out on Hulu, and it finally got a retail release. I think last
Hmm.
year. Might have been this year.
I have not. Was it good? I
Um,
heard it was like
oh, it was. I'm not a fan of Predator. That was a good Predator movie.
that was awesome.
um, so the interesting thing is that the guy who made Alien Romulus, he actually went on. I guess you can say he
Hmm.
went on record, but he actually said just the other day, "Yeah, I would love to do an AVP movie with my buddy Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey." where we could actually have it to where I direct one half and he directs the other half. I'm like, I am so fucking there. I would
Oh,
give all my
that
money in a heartbeat for
that
that.
would
Oh
be
my
fun
god.
if they're both doing it well. That would make for a good movie. That would make for well. That's like I
Mm-hmm.
got really disappointed when they made in the MonsterVerse franchise. They made Kong Skull Island, and I thought that movie was stunning and amazing. And then that guy didn't do all of the rest of the Godzilla movies, and I was like, that was a mistake. Why didn't you bring him back? He was really good. That was
Yeah.
better than the Godzilla movie in 2014. Why would he not come back? What did you do?
Wasn't the next movie
King of the
what was
Monsters,
it? King of
the
All
one with
Monsters?
Ghidorah.
King of the Monsters. Yeah, I don't hate that movie
Well, that's
anymore,
good.
but I still have a strong
I
dislike for it.
understand. I mean, it's weird that the thing with the America just doesn't. We can't do consistent Godzilla movies. We're always all over the road. Like we don't know what to do with him. 2014 had this weird thought in their head that they were going to make it a monster movie from the 50s with a title character more famous than the actors in the film. So they're gonna like cheekily hide him away and not show him, and he's gonna be on screen for very short amounts of time. And you're like, okay, that was terrible. That was a bad choice. Why did you do that?
Yep.
The fact that 2 years later, or even 1 year technically, Japan makes a Godzilla movie with roughly the same amount of screen time for the title character that didn't make me feel like I was being cheated and confused as to how this was a Godzilla movie. You don't understand the franchise or the character. I know it's just a big monster, but there's a
I'm assuming you're referring to Shin
yes,
Godzilla.
2015/16 would be Shin Godzilla. That movie was leagues better. I still like 2014. I like the 1998 Godzilla movie, but
And making that Mecha Jason, Hideaki Anno is the guy who helmed that movie, and he did
yes,
Evangelion.
100%. And then if we're talking MonsterVerse, the Kong versus Godzilla has a robot Godzilla in it, which is still a really freaking cool version of a robot Godzilla. It was very, very fun.
Oh,
That was
yes, it was. Oh my
I
god, Mecha
liked that
Godzilla.
they took, which doesn't happen all the time in Mecha, they took the approach of it's a robot. Why would it move like a person or be an animal? We didn't give it a reason to do that. It should move like a robot. It should make weird choices that like a normal living creature never would. So like its body twists and contorts in weird ways and it fights kind of strangely because it's a robot. It can do that. So much fun.
Yes, but with the brain of an evil kaiju god.
I mean, look, man, Godzilla gets weird, okay? Godzilla's always been weird, man.
Very true. But with that being said, you want to dive into this week's episodes of
Yeah,
Medabots?
we can definitely hop on into the meta world.
Man, oh man. Alright, so we got episodes 13 through 15 this week. Episode 13 is called Meet Your Meta Maker. When I first started watching this episode, it honestly felt like filler. Then it gets to the meat and potatoes of it, and I'm like, oh, this one's actually not filler. Okay, I'm happy with that. But it took a little bit to get there. How about you?
So, I mean, to be totally honest, I like this show. It's fun. I haven't, there have been a few episodes that have felt kind of heavily like filler, but I'm willing to give it plenty of benefit of the doubt because even in episodes like that, there are generally moments that are fun, and I'll just wind up zeroing in on those and
Hmm.
kind of accepting the others as, well, this is what you get through to get to the good part. Um,
I wonder if you can say that for the next episode,
uh,
but go on.
so in this one, I not only does it give a whole bunch of stuff about lore for Medabots and lore for the world, we get Rubber Robo lore. I didn't see that coming.
Yes, we do. It was interesting that we got that, but it was also interesting to know that, hey, apparently there's a higher tier of Rubber Robo, and I guess the guy known as Sea Slug isn't the actual leader like he thought he was.
So I do have a question about that. How did he not know? Let's see, going by my notes,
Yeah, I wrote the
so
same
many questions
question.
about the Rubber Robos. How did he not know? Did the others know? Or did they just go along with him and like humor him? Who else was unaware? Very confused.
Like, did he just randomly come up with the Rubber Robo Gang, or did he just like see it in a newspaper clipping and go like, "Hey, I can be part of the Rubber Robo. I will start the Rubber Robo Gang of my own creation.
I have
And
so many
I don't
questions.
know.
I
It
I
doesn't
don't
go
think
into
they
that very
explain
well.
any of that at all. I think that that's just completely they're so the rubber robos going by this are technically like a cell, like with guerrilla fighters under an oppressive regime of some kind. That's basically how this rubber robo group has
Hmm.
existed. It's been these members, they're doing their thing. Some of the members are aware that they answer to someone else, that they have a higher authority, and then some of the members are completely oblivious. Apparently, he was completely oblivious, and Shrimp Lips, the little tiny dude with the baby pacifier, was completely aware that they not only are part of a larger organization, which explains why they have like so many members, but they also kind of get stuff wrong a lot, and why those other members are like
Hmm.
not in every scene because they can call in support when they need it for a mission, and then when they don't, all of those members go back to home base or they go somewhere else and they do other things. The core like five that we see are just like they're a team, so they're always together. So
Right.
apparently that's how the rubber robos work. We all learned that in this episode.
I and their true leader. I made mention of this on a previous episode, but I hated that I
Hmm?
kind of called it out. The true leader is basically a Giovanni
So here's
clone.
the thing. If you're going to go that hard, I would argue that both of them are just clones of the bad guy from Inspector Gadget.
Whoa, 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 whoa! You take back
And if you want to play
that
that
comment,
game,
sir.
all of that is just Blofeld from 007 from the books with Ian Fleming and James Bond. They are literally just Blofeld in a Saturday morning cartoon
I
show.
mean,
That's it. They even all have a cat.
I'm.
That's all they are.
Yeah.
They're just
I hate it when you're right.
Ernst
I hate it when
Stavros
you're right.
Blofelds. They're just that guy, but without the, Doctor Evil, which is who he's based on. That's why he's got the eye thing. That's literally all that is. It's just a pop culture borrowing.
So basically, from what we gather in this episode, is that the Rubber Robo Gang, they're
Mm-hmm.
still doing
Mm-hmm.
petty thievery and petty crimes. They're just trying to make
Yep.
ends meet just by doing that. And once
I think it's the tiny one is
Shrimp
Shrimp Lips.
Lips,
I mean, all their names are
fucking
weird.
weird
I'm
name.
curious what they are in
Yeah,
Japanese and if they're that silly.
I'm definitely gonna find out once we're done with this. So Shrimp Lips ends up getting fed up with
Mm-hmm.
all the petty crimes, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and call the
Mm-hmm.
big boss, the big cheese, so to speak. And as soon as they end up back at their home base, which is this dumpy little shack, that's when like all the entire army just comes running out, charging at them, and they're like, "All hail the true leader!" And the true leader's brought out, and he's inside of a TV, and I don't exactly remember the quote, but he goes like, "I can't believe it! There's an actual true leader, and he has his own
Yeah.
television
Yeah,
show."
he does. He's like, oh, wow, the true leader. And he's such a good leader. You can tell because he even has his own TV show.
That's what it was, yeah. Um, but then from there, it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
went away from that altogether until the very end of the episode. So they don't focus on them until like the last
Well,
six
that's
minutes, I
technically
think.
setup. That entire
Um,
thing of him learning he's not the leader and he's just was in charge of this little group was all set up for the next like thing they do
right,
with
which
him.
is 2 episodes later. Well, no, it's the next episode. Never mind.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but we'll get to my disappointment about that one in a little bit. uh, um,
Aww.
I do like the fact that we finally managed to meet the Medabots creator, which I was actually kind of surprised that we were able to
Hmm.
get him 14 episodes in.
Yeah, like an actual person who made
Yeah,
them.
and what's interesting is that when you look at the Japanese version, this one technically, let's see, number 13. That one shows up as episode 20 in the original first season.
Holy
Yeah, so
Wow.
we jumped the
They
gun.
front loaded this that
Yeah,
hard? Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
Why?
I have no
Well,
unearthly
it
idea.
doesn't serve anything. Like that, well, that means that that other episode is also entirely out of order because the episode where they visit they do the visit
That
and all that, that episode had to have
that's
happened after this
21.
one because it makes no sense for Jesus Christ. So both of those episodes are completely
Yeah,
out of
but
order.
guess what? The next one after that, number 15, that's not 22.
It's just like
No,
14
it's
or some
23.
shit. Oh God, come on.
Yeah,
Why? Why did they do that with
I
the
don't
order?
know.
Why did they? Oh, actually, now that I think about it, do you think conspiracy theory. Do you think that the show's ratings in America were a certain way and that they actually were actively making decisions? Because the show can clearly be aired heavily out of order and still make a lot of sense as long as you get introductions. After that, you can do whatever you want with most of the characters unless they call back to a specific event.
That's a
There are
possibility,
very
but there
few, like,
are shows where they do call back to specific events and you don't understand what they're talking about. Like,
oh wow, so they did screw up the order
well,
sometimes.
I don't mean specifically for this show, I just mean in general.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so this is an artifact of the 90s in anime. Nowadays, you would literally get torn apart if you tried to do that. They'd be like, "What are you doing? This is in the order that it aired in." And stuff simulcasts and all that stuff nowadays, so everyone knows what the quote unquote true order
mm-hmm,
is, not barring shows like Haruhi Suzumiya, which is a whole other thing. But and that was all artistic. But or Excel Saga, again, same thing. Those were art
mm-hmm,
choices. Barring those very, very, very few exceptions, that was a thing that they did in from the 70s all the way up through the 90s, not all of the 90s, but a good chunk, where they would choose to heavily edit, heavily censor, and heavily rewrite or change a show by altering the order, by completely chopping up episodes and making new ones. And they would never dream of that nowadays because everyone would be like, "What are you doing? You're dumb." If and then people would just go watch the original and it would just be nothing but people yelling online.
oh yeah.
But back then, that was just normal. Granted, that type of stuff did give us massive cultural touchstones that are their own original property. Robotech, Voltron, both of which would not exist if they had respected the original show and done it the way it was supposed to. But I think that those work because they didn't just like change it a little, they completely dropped all the original writing and they're like, we're just going to do whatever we want because that allowed for actual creativity. The type of stuff you're seeing here in Medabots and then you saw in like Zatch Bell and other stuff was just people making censorship choices and then people making really stupid choices that don't serve the show itself. They don't serve the plot. They're just dumb choices being made.
I am
For
curious to see if
instance,
they did the same thing with Digimon.
they did it with Cardcaptor Sakura. That I don't know. They did it with Cardcaptor Sakura. Episode 1 in America of Cardcaptor Sakura, she attacks, I think, the Shadow, like episode 7 in the original. In Cardcaptor Sakura, the original version of the show, episode 1, she gets the book. It, episode 1 can't be anything else. It has to be the entire conceit of the show. She has to get the book, meet the Guardian, get the magic wand. Episode 1 in America, she has all of those, and it literally starts off with her doing her Monster of the Week thing because they,
Because they just
quote
want to
unquote,
make,
need to draw
yeah,
everyone in
I
it.
get it.
And so
Wow.
they completely changed the order. Or like Dragon Ball GT, where they completely chopped up like 3 episodes to make episode 1 of the original airing in
I'm
America.
glad they rectified that at least for GT.
Yeah, because it did. Well, the thing with GT and Sakura is it didn't improve the show at all. It just made them weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you paid attention, you'd be like, why does she all of a sudden, like when you go to episode 2, it'd be like, why doesn't she have the shadow? What? It's like, why doesn't she just use that? And then it's like, oh, because that's like episode 7. She didn't have it when they originally animated this. So it's like, yeah, that type of stuff doesn't happen anymore. But I think it only works if you're going to Robotech and Voltron it, and then if you're not, then just please don't. You're just gonna make it dumb, confusing, and people are gonna talk about you in a podcast in 30 years.
God. Yeah. With that being said, though, I have some issues with this episode, and it's not with the
Yeah.
plot. The plot's actually pretty decent for what it is, because from here on,
Hmm.
we actually meet the professor who ends up claims that he's created all Medabots, or he's the creator of Medabots. Um,
Hmm.
and he has this obsession with butterscotch pudding for whatever reason. And
Yeah,
then
and that's clearly there in the original because they animated all of those pudding scenes.
that's true. And
He's just really into pudding, man.
he's Karen's uncle, and then on top of
Hmm.
that, Icky wants to be his apprentice, but so does Koji because Koji's his rival. You know, same kind of bullshit that you would
Yeah,
normally get in like
they're hitting all the
rivalry.
notes you'd
Yeah,
expect.
that's all fine and dandy. Uh, my issue though is that I thought we were actually going to get some character development between Icky and Metabee. And
So the Ikki, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I got a thing too.
because, again, Metabee does not listen to Ikki one bit, and they made an entire 2 episode arc about that, and they learned nothing.
So that's my biggest problem with this episode. I like the entire thing. The parts that confuse me are Metabee being inexplicably against training, even though he was very into it like the episode before. They meet Rakusho and he literally just begs him to train him how to do stuff. All of a sudden he hates training. And I'm like, you literally begged someone to do it an episode ago. And if this is episode 20 of the original show, that makes even less sense. That
Yeah,
that would be even more. That would mean you've done even more things, and all of a sudden you have to go against it for literally no reason because it doesn't even serve the plot that they fight. Like that doesn't mean anything.
nope.
They, there was no reason for them to go through the mini arc of them not liking each other, and then all of a sudden, oh well, maybe if we listened to each other, we would do better. That's right, teamwork. And it's like you've learned that lesson before, like twice. And you learned that training was good before now. Why do you hate those two things all of a sudden? It's like both of you forgot. I'm confused. I don't understand. It didn't serve the
And looking
plot,
at
didn't make it
the
any better.
original timeline as to where they released those other episodes, that two-parter was still early in the original Japanese release.
Hmm.
So
So there's no
there's no
reason for them
reason
to
for
do that.
this.
Like, I
So
don't
that bugged
understand.
me. But at least at the end of the episode, when the Rubber Robo Gang, now dubbed as the Evil Rubber Robo Gang, uh,
They did do that, yeah.
they are basically after the professor's quote unquote rare metals that he should have, and they capture a Nutrinurse, and they use this bizarre electric mallet to knock her out, and then knock out the metal that she has, and then they summon the true
Okay,
the
so
true leader.
the fact that I thought this was going to be a one episode thing, no, 100% this is how their leader is like some sort of supernatural force. They literally
Yeah,
hold it aloft, the sky darkens, and then a light beam shoots down and starts lifting the metal into the air. And then he analyzes it and gets mad at them because it's a shit metal. Because it is. It's a normal metal. They thought it was rare because I don't know, Karen has money, which is terrible logic, by the way. He's like, I need rare metals. And they're like, oh, she's rich. That metal must be rare. And he's like, no, you idiots. She bought it. What is wrong with you? I
I
also
come to the
love that.
conclusion in the next episode that if the Rubber Robo Gang actually paid attention to what they were doing
Yeah.
and what they actually have in hand, they could
Hmm.
probably get stuff done.
Oh, yeah, no, they're competent. They're just stupid.
Yeah,
They somehow manage to be both. They are competent and very good at like executing bad guy stuff, and they literally successfully steal stuff all the time. But they're also really stupid. So like they steal the wrong thing. He points them in a direction. They do it wrong more than once, and I think I also okay. Look, we've all worked at companies where your boss tells you to do something, or you see people who are like, "Hey, go do this," and then they get mad at the person for doing something, and you're like, "You didn't give them all the details. Why would they have known that?" And it's like, "Oh, well, they should have
mm-hmm.
asked," and it's like, "No." You're the one telling people to do things. It is your job to tell them what you want them to do. He
Yep.
never tells them what a rare metal is, what it looks like, what one would be. He never gives them any detail. He just says, "Get me a rare metal." And it's like there have to be hundreds and probably thousands of Medabots in the city. How the hell are they going to know which one's got a rare and which doesn't? Clearly, there is no physical identifier. Like he didn't tell them, okay, well, if a rare metal, then this. If then. No, he just tells them go out and find.
Yep.
How?
Yeah. They're all just so stupid.
Uh-huh. And yet they have so much
um.
money.
Somehow, well, the organization does. The
Yeah,
specific teams probably
yeah.
not.
Well,
So one of the interesting things about this is that the first introduction for Icky in this episode is that it starts him off with a Metabee fight against Cyan Dog, and he just beats Cyan Dog, apparently taking a few lumps, but he still beats him relatively easily.
because it's
Then
saying, dog.
and then Doctor Aki, is his name?
Yep.
Aki?
I think it's just
Yeah,
AKI. They call him Dr. Aki.
I'm gonna say Aki because of Final Fantasy Spirits Within. But
Oh,
anyways,
yeah, no, it is. He's way less hot, though. He never got voted into a magazine.
Maxim Hot 100.
Yeah,
um,
strong female character who we're definitely going to enter into a contest purely based on her looks.
yeah.
That doesn't
so,
undermine us artistically. What are you talking about?
um, so the interesting thing about this is that Dr. Aki ends up taking over Cyan Dog for a rematch,
Hmm.
and he manages to control Cyan Dog way better than Spike ever could because Spike is also an idiot.
Well,
Um,
so here's the thing. Yeah, we can continue explaining, but there's a reason it works.
well, it works because Cyan Dog is a dog,
But
so to
he's
speak, and so
not.
he.
That doesn't make sense. Okay, fine. He's not. They explicitly say he has a monkey medal. Why would he act like a dog? Well, because the armor's a dog, but they've explicitly shown that the armor has zero effect. Metabee, I guess, acts like a beetle, but he has a beetle medal.
I
Why
get
does
it.
Cyan Dog act like a dog? He has a monkey. They even point out you put the wrong medal in that body. It's supposed to be a dog medal because it'll make him better at shooting. He's so shit at it because you don't give him close combat, which Spike's so dumb he never learned that lesson, so he doesn't just like equip him with close combat arms so he can be good at it.
Uh huh.
I just there's sorry. I know it's a joke show, so it doesn't matter, and that's why I'm okay with it and I went along with it, but still frustrating. Come on.
Well, I bet you anything that maybe it might have been a dubism for all that stuff regarding the monkey medal. We'll still find out
Yeah.
once I finally get around to it.
Or when we see all the
But
episodes, it might even be a continuity thing.
it could be a continuity thing. It's absolutely right. But it was interesting to me that at one point one of the tricks was that he tells him to fetch and he catches a bone midair with his mouth.
Hmm.
What mouth does Cyan Dog
Okay, okay,
have?
no, 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 sir, sir. That is the same mouse that is able to bite things in the way that Powerpuff Girls can pick up objects. Okay?
You got me there.
Even Mojo Jojo couldn't figure that out. He body swapped and he was just tapping stuff because he's like, how do they pick up things?
You completely got me there. I did not. I was not thinking of that at all. All right, moving on.
Cartoons are weird, man. Cartoons are weird.
Very true. I do remember at one point the when Icky decides that he wants to become Dr. Aki's apprentice,
Hmm.
he starts doing his little montage of trying to train a little bit.
Hmm.
And do you hear the little melody, just like maybe for like 2 seconds long? It's "Eye of the Tiger."
Just enough to not have to pay for the rights.
Yep. Like it's its own like rendition of it, like their version
Hmm.
of it, but it's only 2 seconds long. That way they're like, no, no rights, no licensing, nothing.
I'm
You can
curious.
definitely tell what it is.
I'm curious if that was on purpose or if they did that because of America. Because it is heavily clearly based on they leaned into Karate Kid with the writing where they talk about this guy who had him do the wiping and waxing and it's like
Waxing on and waxing
yeah,
off.
which is also by the way really stupid. That's not how fighting works. If you wiggle your hands
Yes.
like that, they'll just punch you in the face. So don't do that. That's not you don't learn how to fight from movies. That's a terrible idea. Those people hurt themselves filming those scenes. So
Yes.
uh
um, I was gonna say next. So it all ends up leading up to them fighting the Rubber Robo Gang when they end up capturing Neutroners and they're trying to get the medal back. And they end up fighting this really giant spider Medabot called Spydar.
that thing is actually
Go
pretty
figure.
cool.
It is. It's really really cool looking. I don't know if I like the name though because then when we get into the next episode and they have it's almost like basic Transformer names and it's like come on.
So, okay, that brings up a question because those were product names. Each one of them is given the official like in that show, whatever name a robot has, that's its official
Hmm.
English name, aka this will be on the toy box when the kid goes to the store. So I'm curious how much of that was done between the writing staff for the show and how much was literally just handed them by an already like whatever company bought the rights to bring this over and produce the toys. They had been like, all right, this is what they're all called. Just plug it into your script. This is that one's called Metabee, that one's called Rokusho, that one's called this, that one's called that, da 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 da. And they just went down the list. So I'm curious how that went. So
I don't know. I don't know. um, I think the only one that I've actually had because that's pretty much the end of the episode at that point. He wins, obviously.
yeah,
Um,
they do. Well, I
there's really not
okay.
much else other than that.
So I really like how The rubber robos are stupid in two ways. They get the wrong medal and
Mm-hmm.
they get yelled at. That was a mermaid medal, which is adorable. That she has a mermaid medal in her nurse because she probably picked the mermaid medal because it was cute. So it's just more of the character. Um,
That actually makes sense. I didn't notice
yeah,
that.
100. Well, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the like vague line shape that it had, it was supposed to be a mermaid. It also could be something as generic as like an angel or something. But given that they're going with like animals and stuff like that and everything, I could see it being a mermaid. Um, I like that one lady goes, so so I didn't bring any of the attacking parts because you told me we were just going to be capturing people. So Spidar can't attack.
Yeah,
That
let's
was
go ahead and
fantastic.
draw.
That was fantastic. She's like,
Oh, and let's not forget how Mr. Referee shows
oh,
up in
that
this
was so
episode.
good. Mm.
Care to explain on that one?
So this episode is Bungie referee because
Like he's straight up upside down
uh-huh.
on a bungee cord.
Yep, because spider hanging upside down from a string. So he falls and just kind of wiggles and then sits there. And I think if I remember right, he couldn't get out of the cocoon thing because he wanted to get down, but he couldn't. So he just calls it from where he is.
Mm-hmm.
But because it is an official match, which again, they play fast and loose with, and they're very silly about, but because it was quote unquote an official Robattle, technically, if the Rubber Robos had won, they would have gotten to keep the medal that everyone watched them rob a person of 10 minutes ago. And I'm like, I don't think I can get into someone else's car and then we can step out, have a fist fight, and then I get to keep their car. I don't think that's how that works. Your world is weird. I
Yeah,
don't think that's. I
yeah.
understand Icky being like, on principle, I can't, and I'm like, solid, but also, they stole that. You all watched them steal it. They robbed a child, and I'm pretty sure it's still stolen. Yeah, I don't think winning a row battle really decides that. I don't care if Mr. Referee disagrees with me. I don't think that's how that works with stolen goods, Mr. Referee. If I took your
Laws must be
home,
different in the 22nd century.
dude, you know how easy it'd be to get a house? Literally just walk into someone's front door, challenge them to a row battle, win, and you keep their house. That's it.
Yeah, but if you don't have a Medabot, then you don't have to worry about that.
Oh no, that's real easy. You just get your friend to jump out of nowhere and knock them out, and then you tell them they lost the row battle. Yeah, no, it was crazy.
I mean, that's true. That's true too.
And then you win.
Um, so did you have any quotes that you liked from this one?
uh, so let's see.
Because I've got two.
Oh, I liked you coward. You should have run away like me.
Yes, I wrote that down too.
Was such a good line. I was like, oh, that is clever. That's good. I like
uh,
that one a lot. You coward! You should have run away
that
like me. Oh, that's
I love
funny.
that one.
And then
One
hmm?
oh go ahead.
I was just gonna say the only other big thing for me was why did Henry pay for the pudding? The doctor created Medabots. Why is
I
this
think that
poor man
makes more
paying for it?
sense. I think that makes more sense at the end of the next
It
episode.
does, but it was still well. He's shaking his wallet, and I don't think he was pantomiming that. I think Henry is genuinely doesn't have a lot of money.
No, he really doesn't, which is also bizarre, but
Yeah, no,
more
man.
on that in a little bit.
Reasons.
Yeah. So my favorite quotes are I've mastered the ancient martial art of the feather duster.
Yeah. Oh,
And oh, you got some?
I was just gonna say I liked that Dr. Aki brought up. Why would you think that was training? What are you talking about? My house was dirty. I just
What's
wanted to
wrong with
clean
you?
it. Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? The heck are you talking about? It didn't teach you anything. My room was dirty.
Speaking of that, this actually brings up my second favorite quote on this one. So while they're cleaning, Koji's like, "I'm better than Icky.
Hmm.
I'm stronger than Icky. I'm braver than Icky."
Hmm.
And then out comes a small little spider, and
Hmm.
he starts freaking out. So at the very end, the referee goes like, "Will Koji ever stop bugging out?"
That was solid. I forgot to write
Yeah,
that one down, but that was also solid. Oh, on that note,
yeah.
um, I'm pretty sure Similodon is a beetle type, so that kind of makes me
You
laugh.
think so?
I think he is because of the way those two things on the side of its head are. I think those are supposed to be like the pincers on the front of a beetle's head.
Well, tell you what, I will go ahead and look it up while you go ahead and start talking about episode 14.
Okay. So episode 14 is the spy who row battled me. My first quote is, "Ooh, it's a date." It's not. but it is funny that Icky thought it was. um,
Um, so just a heads up, Smilodon is a
hmm?
saber-toothed tiger. Saber-toothed tiger.
Wait, what?
That's what it says.
Huh? I don't see that at all. It doesn't even have ears. What? All right, that'll go in your pile of. Are you sure you knew what you were doing when you designed this?
Right?
Yeah, I don't. What? 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 Just because it's red doesn't mean it's an apple. It's not how that works. I don't.
Right.
Okay. Moving on.
So, yeah, go back to episode 14.
Back to episode 14. Starts off, they're sitting there. I genuinely thought when he brought out the letter that they were going to do the somebody else wrote it and they were luring him because it doesn't sound like someone actually wrote it. And then when it turns out to be true and it was written by Karen, I'm like, oh no, she's totally oblivious. That is exactly what she would write. Totally
Oh,
misleading
yeah,
him. And
absolutely.
he was just being overly friendly, overly nice, and he is a boy, so he misinterprets all of that and is like, oh, this girl likes me. And it's like, no. Erica definitely likes him,
Eh,
so it's funny watching her get all jelly all the time. But she's doing,
she's really jealous, but she's also like, hey, you're jealous, so I'm gonna really fuck with you now.
yeah, no, I really like that Erica gets jelly, but so that is a trope in pop culture where a character will like another character so they tease them, which in real life is something that like really young children do and then really shitty adults do. The Dennis system,
Hmm.
for those of you who watch Always Sunny. Um,
Oh, God, let's not get into
yeah,
that.
that's the same. Well, that's what adults do, and that's terrible. But for children, they do that because they don't understand. The characters in this show are in middle school. They're like 9, 10 at most. So they are
Hmm.
literally young enough to still be like transitioning into young adulthood. They're not even teenagers yet. So they're still kids. Her doing that makes total sense. That actually works for like one of the few times you ever see it written where a character will get
Yeah, but then
jealous.
she's also super judgmental about Dr. Aki's clothes when he comes up the escalator.
Okay, yeah, but that is entirely in character because Erica is fucking hardcore. And she is essentially a less sociopathic version of oh fuck, was it Jake Gyllenhaal from that movie Nightcrawler?
Oh my God,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's basically that, but like heartwarming and not horrifying. That's basically her. She drops everything, even her own emotional state, when it means she's going to get something that she wants. Because she goes immediately from being jelly to, oh, wait, we're going to tour the factory? Oh, that'll be great. And she just immediately drops it, doesn't give a crap. And then if it serves
Hmm.
her, she just is super into it, super excited. She's willing to put her friends literally in danger if it means she gets a good story. So, yeah, she's like a heartwarming sociopath. But, anyways, the
So,
show is him. It's him misinterpreting a letter, thinking he's going to go on a date with Karen, and then Erica's there, and then it turns out that Karen is the granddaughter to Dr. Aki. Oh, speaking of continuity that they managed to actually keep going, that I want to give them props for. In episode 14, when they're all cleaning the house, they ask her, "Hey, why are you cleaning?" And she goes, "Oh, it's my hobby." Yes, it is.
you wanna go ahead and clean my share?
I mean, yeah, but also that is actually a continuity thing. She legitimately says it in the very beginning. That was one of the first things they show. She just cleans as a
That's
hobby.
true.
I'm surprised when they do
By the
continuity like
way,
that. So
on her letter, I wrote down this
mhm.
quote: "All those X's and an O's. She just wanted to play tic tac toe with you."
That has to be a dubism. There's no way that was written in
Yeah,
Japanese. That is definitely a
yeah.
dubism. I can tell because a lot of it feels almost like 80-yard Medabots lines, and they're just like throwing them in really fast to be like, it's cool. We can fit it in this like half a second before another character jumps on screen.
Well, he also makes a metaphysical joke again later on, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
really? You did that before, and it was funny then, but now that you're doing it again, it's like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you've got them doing that, and there turns out they're going to tour the factory where the Medabots are made, where Dr. Aki works, and those security guards were intense.
Yes, they were. Oh my
I'm,
god. Why are you
I'm not
here?
gonna lie, there's a part of me that's like, if more security at front desks was like that, less companies would be getting broken into. Because you want to talk about your first layer of physical security for like hacking and stuff, that having a no nonsense dude at the front who's potentially going to get somebody mad and like complaining on Twitter. That's what you kind of want. Sure, they need to be nice,
Now
but
you say
oh
that
man.
you say that, but considering how the rest of the plot turns out, I think that kind of goes against
Oh
that.
no, no, no. It 100% works. It's really funny later on when they block somebody from entering the building. I find that hilarious.
Okay, that is true. We will get into that. Um, so this is where the episode starts to lose me.
Hmm.
It's because I thought this was going to be an interesting moment, but it really wasn't for
Really?
me. We see Sea Slug
Hmm.
trying to be an everyday civilian as he's spying inside their
The Metabot
facility,
Corporation.
the Medabot
Hmm.
Corporation, which Metabee doesn't know that the Medabot Corporation
They all look
exists.
at him like he's crazy when he says that. They're like, they make Medabots. How do you not know?
Yeah.
I don't know if they were playing that for laughs or if Metabee legitimately doesn't know and that's actually like a plot thing. Like he wouldn't know
I
because of his metal or whatever.
That's what I'm thinking, but I think it just comes off as being him
He,
being
he
stupid currently.
yeah, he a little dumb.
One of the things involving in this episode is a budding romance that doesn't exist but kinda
Oh no, that romance
exists.
is adorable. Miss Caviar is amazing. I love that little cute weird romance that they got going on. I thought they were going to go somewhere else with
And
it, but that was fun.
and Sea Slug ends up taking on a different name. What's his name, Will?
I forget what they had him go with. It was something stupid.
Mr. Tuna
That's right,
Head.
Mr. Tuna Head, because it still has to be fish related.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was like, what the oh my
such a
god.
weird name.
Um so it's like this little romance thing as he's trying to spy and then he's trying like, do I want to be evil or do I want love?
Hmm.
It's like,
He should have stuck with
okay.
love, man. He should have stuck
Um
with love.
but then everything within that episode beyond that is just like eh. Like they go and meet the like they call it a simulation area,
It's a
but I
holodeck.
couldn't tell if like yeah, but like they still walked out there to take a look at the damage and I'm like, how is it a holodeck if there's actually like stuff that's still broken there?
Well, that's because the robot that they had basically went insane and was pushing its own body so hard it was breaking itself. And it's not supposed to do that. There's supposed to be like, limiters in place because if it goes 100%, it will literally break itself. And that
Hmm.
apparently is a problem. I mean, granted, when they turned it on and the first thing it did was scream like a feral animal, I'm like, and you're gonna release that to the public?
What was the name of this one? It was
Uh,
Belzelbag?
no, Belphegor?
Belzegor.
Belzegor.
Okay.
It was. I think it's Belzegor or something. Like it's
I almost said Basil Goose,
Basil.
but that's
It's
not it.
Basil Goose. Basil Goose. Basil. The Italian cousin to Beetlejuice.
Or the the robotic cousin of that giant monster from Monster Hunter.
Oh boy.
Oh, you don't know which one I'm talking
I
about, do
think I
you?
do. Pretty sure I do. It's been a while.
I think it's actually called the Basil Goose.
Oh no. No. I know which one you're thinking. What's that thing's name? Uh.
It's like a giant whale that flies up in the sky and launches mortars at you.
Yeah, they gotta shoot that thing down. Um. Yeah, I forget that thing's name. It's one of the like storyline bosses. Because it's one of the giant like landmass monsters where they're so big they're a
Yeah,
freaking landmass.
but none of this hit for me.
Really?
It didn't. I don't know why. The only thing that got me, which I thought was just it was funny because it was random. It was Miss Caviar saying, "Come this way." And he goes like, "If I could walk that way, I wouldn't need aftershave." What
What?
the fuck does
Wait,
that
what does that
mean?
mean?
That's what exactly was said. It says, "If I could walk that way, I wouldn't need aftershave."
What?
I
What?
don't know what that
Uh,
means.
Damn. I have to go back and rewatch that scene to even know what they were possibly talking about.
She just said, "Come with me this way."
I, uh, that's not even like a dirty joke. It's just nonsensical. Like
Exactly.
it's confusing.
That's one of the things that was like, if I wanted nonsense, I would watch Excel
Yeah.
Saga. This
Yeah.
was that was just that upset me.
It hurt you.
um. So then after that, what happens next? Because it gets a little muddy there for
So
me. Because
you
at
were
that point, I
checked
was
out.
kind of
Okay,
peeved.
so let me
Yeah,
just pull up my notes, make sure I
peeved, not peeved.
don't miss anything incredibly specific. So I thought, interestingly, when they show the like data screen for Belzegor, it lists Miss Caviar as the meta fighter, even though they don't do anything with it. That's because she's, I think, one of the team leads on the project, so technically she's the fighter
Hmm.
for it, but she's not. So I thought at that point they were going a different direction. I thought Miss Caviar was going to be called the spy who robattled me. I thought she was going to be a spy double agent who knew he was part of that evil organization, and she was just being really nice and leading him on as a honeypot, and they were
Oh.
going to like flip that at the end, and then he gets mad and he goes evil.
That would have been more
And they don't do
interesting.
that at all. They go the weird route of making her genuinely interested in him, and she gets sad when she finds out that he's evil. Um,
Do you remember what she says?
uh,
Because I wrote it down.
she
I'll tell you.
was
So
that?
basically, he's like, you go on your date. I'm just so sad right now, and you've turned me into evil or some shit like that. And then she goes, my, fuck, where is it? Because like, it's okay, it's okay. After the security guards, the police, and the courts, everything will be okay. I promise.
Yeah, she did say that. She's also pretty correct. Like, don't worry. After you
Yeah,
go through all these levels of things that you definitely did and you broke a lot of laws, then you'll be fine.
but I was just like, okay. Um, and then Mr. Referee, you see him right
So,
outside of the door because he
so
can't get
they
in.
bring out. So okay. So going with it, uh, Tuna Head goes evil and he decides to steal Belzegor because he's like he must have. Okay, so his logic makes sense. He's like this incredibly
Oh,
dangerous
wait.
experimental robot probably has a rare metal. That's a good logical like train of thought. That makes sense.
Now, wait a second. How did Metabee recognize him? Because he was still in his spy outfit.
Uh,
He legit says, "Hey, wait a minute, aren't you from the Rubber Robo Gang?" And he doesn't have any of the Rubber Robo Gang outfit on or attire or anything like that. He still looks like he's still part of that corp.
right, but their outfits don't cover their face, and all of their faces are shown every time, and they've seen them so often at this point, they know what they look like.
Yeah, but he wears sunglasses. He doesn't wear regular
That's fair.
glasses.
I don't know how he recognized him then. If you're going with the internal logic of their universe, it doesn't make sense that he recognized him.
He bypassed
Hmm.
Superman logic.
But also, they wind up, so he steals Belzegor, winds up on the roof, and then Belzegor basically goes nuts because, as they established in the episode, unless they like crash turn him off, Belzegor just goes insane and starts attacking everything within range. So he winds up quote unquote wielding Belzegor to fight the main cast, and we get to see them kind of start to work together, which was cool. They're heavily outclassed, but it was cool watching them work together to try and take out a bigger opponent. Neutronurse puts up a shield, which is apparently the thing it can do, and it's able to actually
Mm-hmm.
actively hold back this incredibly powerful Medabot. And then the entire time this Robattle's happening, Mr. Referee is not there because the building is in lockdown because of the theft. And Mr. Referee is down at the lobby trying to convince the security guards to let him through, but they ain't having that. So they don't let him in at all. They keep telling him, sorry, don't care. Tell someone who cares, and then they shut the little thing. And so he is very
Yep.
sad. Mr. Referee is Mr. Sad Referee because he cannot get in. And in his words, Mr. Referee is always authorized. But clearly that's a lie, and that is all in his head. Um, Anywho, they're fighting, and they wind up defeating the Metabot and knocking him off the side, and he smashes into the ground, and his metal pops out, and then, then Mr. Referee calls the fight because he crashes behind him. So he still does get to be a
At
referee.
least he knew who was
Yeah,
fighting.
I don't know if he was just making an assumption, but they've kind of shown that Mr. Referee is some sort of supernatural force. He A always knows when he is needed, and B can always get to where he is needed. So I don't know if he's some sort of like omnipotent deity. I don't know what's going on there. But anywho, that is essentially how the
Yeah.
episode goes out is they get into a big fight with the fancy new
Oh,
Metabot that they showed you, and then he goes evil, but they do wrap up the love storyline with you finding out that he was completely wrong. Miss Caviar genuinely was interested in him, probably still is, and then they have a line that kind of took me by surprise where
Was it
Medabee's
Medabees?
line where he tells Icky to get in there on the rebound, and I was like, dude, what the
Catcher on the
fuck?
rebound. Yeah.
He's like 10. What the hell, man? That is the most like I get it. It's meant to be a silly haha joke, but it is so wildly adult and off the cuff that it makes like no sense. I was like, what the fuck?
I don't care. That was actually a legit funny line for me.
What the fuck, man?
It caught me off guard.
Now, that ties up the episode. There is one thing I do want to get into because they do kind of hint at a few things for the world. When they are touring the factory, they bring up metals, and all of a sudden the doctor gets super worried. They bring up the room that metals are in, and he doesn't want to let them in there, and he keeps trying to shove them away and shove them away. And I have my personal theories about that, but I'm curious what yours are before I talk about mine.
So before we even dive into that, you forgot
Oop.
one last thing. Unless you were planning on bringing it up later. Phantom
Oh
Renegade.
yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, I genuinely did. At the very end of the episode, they flash to Dr. Aki and mentioning to he says like you my apprentice or something like that or his helper, and it's Phantom Renegade,
Uh
meaning
huh.
that Dr. Aki and Phantom Renegade know each other. So does Henry, obviously, like they know each other because I think they mentioned in the previous episode that Henry was working under him like when he was in school.
Have you ever seen Henry and the Phantom Renegade in the same room?
I would not take it past this show to be like Dr. Aki thinks they're two separate people, and that Henry just never bothered to correct him. So we get to the end of the
God.
show, he pulls off his mask, and Dr. Aki's like, "What the Henry? Why are you dressed like Phantom Renegade?" And he's like, "Wow, seriously? You still don't get it?"
So I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
he
I
knows.
they make
Obviously.
Dr. Aki out to
But
actually like kind of know what he's doing and not be as special as some of the other characters on the show.
well, if I remember right, in the previous episode, he actually does mention that Henry was a
hmm
prior
He mentions that he
apprentice.
worked for him, but I feel like with Henry being older, they're kind of alluding to like Henry like out of high school and maybe while in college, or because of how it works sometimes in Japan, he may have just straight up gone to work for the company because he really likes Medabots. He's very invested and he knows a lot. I could see Henry
I
genuinely.
really want to know how
We
old
don't
he
know how old
is,
he is. We know he's probably in his 20s, but we're taking a guess.
but
Yeah.
it was interesting how he wants him to focus on the
hmm
rare metals thing. So that brings goes back to your question:
Yeah.
why are they not allowed to
I
go into the
have
metals
my
room?
theories on it. I want to know what yours
Uh,
are because I genuinely don't remember, so I honestly don't remember.
so I obviously don't know because I never was able to finish
hmm
any of this. Um, but if we're gonna go with an outlandish theory, they opened up a portal to the
Oh, Jesus
Pokemon
Christ.
world and they're capturing all the Pokemon and they're digitizing them into the
So
souls of the
you're saying it's
metals.
literally just they accidentally oopsed into the future of Pokemon and they just started taking the dust.
Yes, that's exactly what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Do you have any other theories, or is that the one we're going with? That's our working theory.
But yeah,
Really?
I honestly don't know. Like thinking about it, if I were to give like a real guess, um, the reason why I don't think that the metals are visible to the public, it's got to be something. I don't think it's military. I don't think it's government because it's got to be something a little
Yeah.
bit more secretive
Yeah, I
than
don't think it's
you
that.
know than
Yeah.
red tape or any kind of that bullshit. Um, maybe, and hear me out. Maybe it's actually people who were dead and then somehow turned
Going the
into
Ava route.
metals. And that actually is something that I had as a theory for the next
Hmm.
episode as well.
Okay. So
Got any
my
thoughts
thought,
on that?
because they've shown a few things. True, actual rare metals, as the show uses the term, not just a metal that is rare. No, like the incredibly very rare, like very, very few exist on the planet metals, are ones like Rokusho and Metabee. Those two seem to have a level of sentience that is very unique. They don't have. So the everyone else doesn't have that. And I think I think that what's happening is they have a few rare metals that they dug up from a la ancient civilization, and the I think they dug those up, and so technically, your theory can coexist with mine. My theory
Okay.
is that The uh, so you've got the super duper rare, what they call a rare metal, which are like Rakusho, Medabi. I assume there are others. Oh, well, it's Rakusho Medabi, that one metal that was literally like partly rotted away that Phantom Renegade actually successfully stole, which I think is like so damaged that it
Mm-hmm.
can't be used, but they were still studying it. I think those rare metals are the true metals. All other metals are copies of those, and that's why they're very, very different. They are us trying to interpret these incredibly dense, hard to understand objects, and we are creating the byproduct of that research is normal metals, the stuff that you put into like Dog and literally every other character on the show. All of those are normal, and that's why they're more robot-y, because that's the way we would interpret it. We created copies of them and we filled in what wasn't there with like, the Jurassic Park approach. You fill in what's not there. So they create like AI writing and stuff that winds up making, okay, well, they're all going to be subservient. We're not going to let them like harm people. They're going to make really good, like, they're going to gel really well with people because if they had true sentience, they might actually clash. But if they're always in a like butler mode, then they will always be subservient, which is good. So I think it is a very limited number of true rare metals, and everything else is a copy. And when they're creating those copies, the tweaks that they make wind up creating certain things. Like I would put Belphegor or Belzegor, whatever, I would put that one as a it is a copy, and either they put more of the original like coding, if you want to call it that, of the metal on there, and we understand it so poorly and it's so like fragmented that that's why it comes out like as a wild animal that's just crazy and attacks things because it's incomplete, or they misinterpreted part of it, and when they injected some of their own ideas, they accidentally wrote those incorrectly, and it didn't interface properly, and still feral animal, wild, crazy, all that stuff. Um, so I think that's what they are, which technically means that we could both be true. We could both be correct, and that's what's happening, and that's what's leading to it.
I
It would
have a
also
feeling,
explain
yeah.
it would explain the Phantom Renegade's obsession with metals because he's working for Dr. Aki. It also makes me curious if Dr. Aki is playing a side game next to his company. If his company has its own goals and it's there and it mostly just is like a company, it just wants to be like profitable and know what it's doing. And if Dr. Aki is like, no, I want to understand metals. I want to know where they come from, what they are, how it works. And the young impressionable kid who is now a full grown adult who works with him is like, all right, I can no longer, like, I could keep learning from you here and still get really good at this, but I want to help you on your journey and your quest. So I'm going to quit, go work at this rinky dink shop, make just enough money to, exist, and then I'm going to go Phantom Renegade it up at night and stuff, and I'm going to keep hunting down metals for you so we can continue our research. And he's like super dedicated to Dr. Aki. So I think that's the
That
direction they're going with those.
that might be right. Um, let's talk about the next episode because I think that kind of feeds into what we just talked about.
Yeah, I think so. I also think the next episode is needed. You said this one was 23 originally?
Yeah.
Jeez, so far. Honestly, with how mysterious they make Rakusho, I'm okay with this being like halfway into the show. Because, actually over halfway, because it's 15. So, I'm okay with this being just over halfway because they haven't given us anything for Rakusho. He's just mysterious. But I mean, at some point, he's just, oh yeah, that's mystery guy. I'm sure we'll figure him out eventually, but right now it's just mystery dude. Kind of
Yeah.
nice to get something for him because this
He's a
episode,
ho-
hmm?
he's a hobo with dreams.
Yes, he's literally a hobo with. Although I will say, when he showed up in episode 13, he shows up, they play his theme, and then he just starts spouting off like poetic one-liners, and it's like, yeah, that's Rakusho, just slamming out the quotables. That man is just teaching you how to live. You pay attention to only him, he'll show you how to live, man.
Oh, before we move that, I wanted to say I didn't have any favorite. Well, we went over the favorite quote, which was the security guards in Icky get in there, catch her on the rebound. Um,
What the hell, man?
but
That took me so
one th-
so left field.
one thing that I wanted to point out, because as I mentioned before, naming conventions,
Hmm.
they bring up a new Medabot called Tankar. Come on.
That was okay. That was low effort. I
No,
think.
what you want to know? What's even worse effort? You
Huh?
know what its specialty was?
Oh yeah, shooting.
Yes.
I, when I saw that, I think I laughed out loud because that's such a dumb thing to write. That's like saying, "Oh yeah, that robot specialty is walking."
Yep.
Really, its special ability is walk. Yeah, it's got legs. Can't you tell?
It's not as it's dumber than the one that we get in the next episode, but the next episode's one's kind of dumb too.
I mean, the next episode one. Okay, look, we're not that far into the show, even if this was supposed to be episode 23. The robot from episode 15 is literally just a copy of the robot from episode 2 or 1.
Honestly, it's been a while, so I don't remember.
They're both I mean, spoilers I guess, but they're both fire. They both have segmented bodies. They're
Oh, I'm
both
not talking
red.
about Saldron. I'm talking about Botafly.
Oh, no, I liked Butterfly. What did you like
I
about it?
did.
Oh, because its specialty was floating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really stupid. I was like, wow. That no, Butterfly was the one who made me think, wait, so its specialty is floating. So Metabee's specialty would be walking.
That's right. Oh, and I was wrong. Eye of the Tiger's in this episode, not in the last one.
Oh, jeez.
Oops.
Still
Well,
so
corrected.
uh, that. Oh man, this show,
Yeah.
this show.
I actually wrote it down where it was he was just walking up and then they spot Rokusho and right before they spot Rokusho
Oh,
he's like,
because
was that Eye of the Tiger?
they were running up the stairs. That's why, because they were running upstairs.
Yeah.
Which, just to point out, Icky is racing Metabee, and Metabee's like, "You gotta train," and it's like, Metabee, you're a robot. You have a top speed. Theoretically, Icky will only win if he can beat you at top speed. That's it. That's how it works for a robot. You can't get winded, you can't get tired. Icky is just forever losing once he starts getting tired. Like there's no
Let me quote
point.
Metabee here. Let me quote Metabee here. Oh, I didn't know.
Damn it. This
You
show,
know I'm right.
this
You know
show,
I'm right.
it's so stupid. I love it. This show is amazing. I genuinely love this show, but it's so dumb. You really got to
So,
you got to be okay with it being a little stupid sometimes.
oh yeah. Yeah. So this
Mm.
one's an interesting episode. It's a Rokusho centric episode. It doesn't really focus on Icky or anybody else all that much.
Nope.
This one, it's mainly Rokusho trying to protect this tree that's on this land owned by a woman named Ainsley. And if you couldn't tell, that woman, the voice actress, she is Canadian. The only reason I knew that is because she pronounced sorry as sorry. But
Yes, she
that's
does.
neither here nor
At
there.
one point, she does do that. And technically, he's not protecting the tree. Rakusho feels a weird bond to the tree, and then he
Yes.
describes it to the audience and to other people as when he's by the tree, he dreams. He's not. When he's by the tree, he's unlocking memories that are locked away. By the way, going by how this show presents it, Rakusho's old as fuck. Like,
True.
like he's old. Like Medabots are mass produced. Medabots are normal. They are everywhere. Rakusho is decades, decades old at this point. He has been around since before Medabots. Because the guy who lived with Rakusho and was studying him essentially was the dude who didn't invent Medabots. He invented the theory that would eventually lead to Medabots. To put this in perspective, he's the
Technically,
guy
the
in the
medals.
he's the guy in the 1800s writing mathematical books that essentially are computer program. He's describing the idea of a computer program like 100 years before it happens. He's that guy. He's the dude writing the theory and coming up with we should be able to do blank and saying how it would work way before we get there. And if that's when Rokusho lived with that guy, and that guy and all of the stuff that happens in this episode happens, Rokusho's been wandering for decades and has no idea what's going on.
Which explains why he has some faulty memory at that point. But it's interesting how he dreams, and so does Metabee apparently, except Metabee only dreams of electric sheep.
That was a, that was a silly pun reference to Dream of Electric Sheep,
Do
the
andro-
book
do
by Philip
androids
K.
dream
Dick.
of electric sheep?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a silly reference to that, but I'm okay with all of the silly robot references. It's a silly
I
robot
was
show.
too. I
Uh,
really was too. I thought, you know what? They deserve that one.
yeah,
That
that
they
was.
get credit.
I'm like, some of your stuff, I'm like, but no, that was solid. 100%.
So Rokusho is basically like he's chilling out on this tree
Mm-hmm.
and he's dreaming, and it's a pretty harsh backstory where he's inside the professor's lab, and then suddenly the professor's lab is on fire, and he's calling out to him, and the professor can't be seen or heard or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I will bring up again at the end when we go over our theories on this one.
Okay.
So then he's startled and woken up, and it's because this woman named Ainsley, the tree's on her property,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, "Hey, you, are you the one who's been attacking or been hanging around my property?" He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, ma'am. Well, just get, go on, get, pretty much."
Without the southern
He's like,
accent, but
"Okay,
yeah, basically.
yeah, well, Canadian Southern, how about
Okay.
that?"
Woo!
So
Southern
he's
advantage.
like, "Fine, I'll leave." And then he comes back again, and he's still sleeping there. And she was like, "Well, what are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm sorry. It's just I feel attuned to this tree." And she goes like, "Well, I get it, but you need to get out of here. I guess I will." But I don't remember exactly what the thing was, but I think he ends up
So,
catching somebody and scaring them off. And then she's like, "You know what? I like you." Something like that.
so the way, since we're doing this in audio format, for reference, the tree was like 20 feet from the professor's wooden house, which was also where his lab was, and that burned down.
Hmm.
And now there's literally nothing there. It's just empty plot of like grassy land. And then farther away, like probably about 100 feet away from the tree, is Ainsley's house. She lives on the property, and her home is fine. She has a story tied to the tree, which is why, and she owns the land. She genuinely lives there, and it's her
Did
property.
you get any kind of Ghibli vibes out of this?
So, I mean, I guess I could see what you mean by that. Because they're going with the Totoro tragic tree backstory. There's people died, tragedy occurred on this land, and these characters are piecing together their own tragic history, and they're both damaged people. Because Rakusho and Medabi are basically people with how sentient they are, and they're both piecing
Hmm.
it together, literally like learning their own trauma and then like trauma bonding, but like in a healthy way. And yeah, that's a thing.
Well, Rokusho is.
Rakusho and Ainsley are essentially trauma bonding over their like negative backstory. Rakusho is learning his tragic backstory, and she essentially like sort of leads him into it, but also is able to process a little bit of her own tragic history because she had a husband who died, and the tree is to her. It was their tree. This was their property. This was their thing, and she basically never moved on after he died. She still lives in the house. She still, lives on the property. The tree that was theirs, she refuses to let anyone mess with. She gets super protective. The only reason she's okay with Rakusho is because he keeps coming back. He doesn't get mad at her when she asks him to leave. He's very respectful, and
Hmm.
they both hear someone in the bushes, which we'll find out later who that was. But we hear someone in the bushes, and he runs over, and then they're gone when he gets there. And then he immediately says, "They're gone. Sorry, I didn't get them. Also, I'll leave since you asked me to leave." And she goes, "Hold on." And she's essentially realizes, "Oh, I'm kind of just being an asshole." Like he literally is just here because he likes the tree. That's it. And
Well, it was funny because when you mentioned that, that's when she actually starts going in as to like how protective she was
hmm
over the tree.
yep, she gives
And
the
I
backstory.
wrote this quote down, and I thought it was hilarious.
Oh,
One time, a dog tried to mark its territory, so I had to strip it of its bark. The dog? No, the tree.
that line was so dumb. The dog?
But
No,
it
the
was
tree.
perfect. It was really perfect. I'm like, this
Uh,
is this is some old age humor right here, and I'm
uh,
like, I'm all for it.
or like the really dumb joke where he asks if Butterfly should come in, and she goes, "No, I like that Butterfly's out there." And then they make a joke that Butterfly can feel temperature and feels cold. And I'm like,
Oh, she
that
goes like,
cannot be
no,
true.
Botafly enjoys being out there. She assumed that's what Botafly enjoyed, and then she goes like, it's so cold out here.
hmm Makes no sense. I'm still very confused. I'm curious if that's there in
So
the original too.
I'm so curious as well. So then Icky and Metabee, they're like staking out the place at this point because they're
Hmm.
like, we're just going to be busy, busybodies. We're trying to
Well,
figure out what's going
so it's
on.
busybodies, but we learn from them talking back and forth. Icky starts relaying all of the like, which he's a kid, so of course he would know all this. He starts relaying all of the stuff that people talk about, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well they say this about her, and this about her, and this about the property, and all this stuff." And one of the things they say is she has medals, which is
Mm-hmm.
important. Genuinely comes up later, and they talk about it. But that is one of those, it's just gossipy misunderstanding because she never talks to anyone. So nobody gets to know her and there's no like way to correct the rumors and be like, oh no, that's not blank. Or, oh no, I talk to her, once every 2 weeks. She's really warm. She's just very, very protective of blank. Like nobody talks about any of that because nobody knows her. So she's that
Right.
weird old man in the house, the weird haunted house that nobody talks about. And yeah, so
Exactly.
they're being busybodies, and you're right. They're what is it? We find out that what important things do we find out about Metabee right here, Sean? It's very important. Your laughing tells me you remember.
Oh, I wrote it down. Metabee says something along the lines of, I've learned stuff about this. He's either having an affair or something like that, and or he's secretly the brother. I learned all this from watching soap operas, and then Icky gladly calls him out on watching soap
well,
operas.
well, he's sitting there and they're talking, and he's like, "Man, you shouldn't say such crazy stuff like that." Wait, you watch soap operas?
Yep.
And then he realizes, oh wait, Metabee doesn't sleep, and he's home in the middle of the day. Yeah, he probably watches soap operas with Icky's mom.
It makes a lot of
It
sense.
does, and it also explains a lot of his insane theories about stuff because Metabee basically doesn't remember anything from when he was from before he was turned on. So his like view of the world is incredibly skewed and weird. So he just
Yep.
uses pop culture to deal with it, and his pop culture is a large amount of soap operas, which are basically just the most insane thing you can think of over and over and over again. It, like
Mm-hmm.
comic books, but if you hit skip and you just jumped from crazy moment to crazy moment. And yeah, that does explain it. So they legitimately think that Rokusho is having an affair with her, and he's like, "That's crazy." And then they see them together like later that day or like the next day, and Nikki's like, "Holy crap, you might be right."
God, they're so stupid.
So dumb. It's so
So
dumb.
so after that, that's when the Rubber Robo Gang makes their appearance, and they show up with, as you mentioned before, an enemy type that looks like it was directly ripped from episode 1 or episode 2,
Hmm.
called Saldron, which is a red salamander type.
Yep. Which just
It
means that it
breathes
shoots
fire.
fire.
Yeah, which I thought was actually kind of cool.
It was. It
Um,
also fits into the whole. It makes it the true. Okay, so two things. One, it's there because the Rubber Robo Gang are there because the Rubber Robo Gang are hunting metals, and they heard
mhm.
the rumor, which Icky already said. It's a gossipy rumor that she has metals. You wind up finding out what those metals
Metabee,
are.
you gossipy bitch.
Yeah, yeah, just Icky, you gossipy bitch. And so they had heard the rumor too, and it turns out that the second time Rakusho finds someone sneaking around, it's Icky and Metabee, and they wind up getting brought in and they get shown the medals, and it's literally just old wartime medals, like actual military medals, because her husband, who passed away, just liked collecting them, which is a thing.
Hmm.
People do that, and they are literally just medals. They're all different shapes and colors, different metal ribbon types and all that, and it's just a box of medals. She keeps it because it was important to her husband, and she keeps it as a keepsake. But they're not
Yep.
they're not medals like Medabot medals, which is what everybody in the show is obsessed with. So they all are like, "What medal? Oh, that must be what they meant." And it's like, no, that word existed before Medabots and still holds other meanings. Y'all are just insane.
Right.
But also, I just want to backpedal real quick. There was one thing that made me very confused. They walk into her husband's room, and it's a room with one bed. Does that mean she and her husband slept in separate rooms?
I didn't notice that.
I was confused when she said, "This is his room. I can't bring myself to clean it or change it." And I'm like, "Wait, why the f is there a bed in there? Did they routinely like not sleep together, married in a really tiny house?"
You you say that, but there are some people, at least to this day,
Hmm.
who are married and still do
And
that.
I know that's it's I mean, I don't actually know what the prevalence is, and I would genuinely be curious. I know that is a thing some people do. It was so odd to me because I'm like, she says that so very specifically, and they walk into a room with its own bed, and I'm like, that's weird. Unless this was her husband's room where he does his hobby, and it's their sped bedroom, so this is where people would go when they come over the house. I just explained my own question. Good job, me. So it could be both of those things.
You could be right, but remember she also said that she does have a spare bedroom at the end. Could mean that it's the husband's room, but I doubt she would put that one
She wouldn't off.
out for
Well,
anybody.
she offers it. Well, yes, but also she had at that point in the episode processed a lot of it, and she saw Rakusho as a kindred spirit. So she might genuinely be offering the other room in the house, even if it is her husband's. She might be okay with it because she sees it as going to a worthy cause, and she's okay with Rakusho. She's like, no, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
He can stay here. I'm also curious if like that'll get called back to. This was episode 23 in the original, so no, it won't. But this is a weird episode to have so far into the show. I'm just gonna say that right now, knowing that this was like way
Well,
at the end. This is weird to have like right before the show ends.
I'm betting. Well, remember there was like 50. Okay, so I don't remember if I told you.
Hmm.
I ended up buying the Japanese versions on Blu-ray.
Right.
So the original series, it has all 50 something episodes as the
Oh,
quote unquote first series.
so technically, making this like episode 21, 23 puts it halfway in the
Yeah,
original run of the show. That makes sense. Yeah, these are halfway.
right.
Now we're going to explain backstory on this guy, backstory on this guy. That makes sense. I get that. Okay. So no,
Yeah,
this is the right place to do that because then you can call back to it later and you can talk about it and this is when you don't want to keep Rakusho a mystery until like the last episode because it's just silly and confusing at that point. You're like, why are you cramming this into the final arc? You want to get that out of the way and, you know, it lets you do other stuff. So that does make sense.
exactly.
It's weird in the American one
Yeah.
they did it this early, but I feel like it's almost like they didn't think they would make the 50 something run. So they did it really early to get it out of the way to be like, nobody can get mad at us. We actually got to it.
Well, um, I don't want to say anything because based off of what I just read, so I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
But I will say what my theory was based off of what we witnessed with this particular episode.
Hmm.
So you know how the professor wasn't there when he was calling out to him in his dream, right?
Right. He says, Professor, Professor, and then nothing.
Right. So I think the professor caused the fire accident in the first
Really?
place. I am under the belief of that, but I think it's because he was experimenting on himself.
You think he was doing experiments involving metals and sentience and all of that, and Rakusho was one of the very early prototypes of a Medabot and had a rare metal
Well,
because that was all they had to work with at that point. So,
well, not only that, but I think he ended up possibly becoming the rare metal or a rare
well,
metal.
yeah, not obviously not the one literally in Rakusho. Yes,
Yeah.
I not that I would put it past some shows to try and do that because that would be insane. But anyways,
Yeah.
that would that I could kind of see that. I'm curious if they're going to have the Doctor be alive at some point.
That's also a possibility because we don't really know how much time has passed. I mean,
True.
we're just making assumptions at this
We
point.
are, but we're doing it
Um,
because the 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 lab burning down happened before Ainsley lived on the land. She had no idea that occurred. She and her husband lived there
mhm.
for theoretically years, and then he died, and it's been years since then, and she still lives there. And just now, the tree becomes a thing with her and Rakusho, and then it winds up getting burned down by Saldra. But that also kind of does wind up giving her and Rakusho closure because tree's gone and there's nothing they can do about it.
Right.
So, but it is,
But
yeah.
yeah, mm, I want to be right on this one
Hmm.
because I think it's actually one of the more interesting theories that I can come up with for that.
Yeah.
But what about you?
So you want to be right about the turning into a metal thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like that idea. I still kind of like your idea that if they're not if they're not going to go the ancient civilization route of like, lost technology that we're rediscovering or just straight up aliens, then it would be cool that like these are, people who died and like their soul, like their ghost essentially got absorbed into like ore and then it got crushed down and crushed down and at some point in the past that got dug up and turned into metals, and then those made it to our present day where they realized how they could make more of them and they were now mass producing them and stuff. But the guy
Mm-hmm.
who was studying them originally and realized what they held was the guy who first created like Rokusho and stuff. That doctor is the one who paved the way for all Medabot research, and Dr. Aki is the one who like took that and ran with it, the Ford approach. Uh, but like
Oh shit!
Ford
What
and
if
Thomas
what if
Edison.
what with what you're saying is that Rokusho is actually the first Medabot?
I don't know if that's what they're going to go with, and if not the first, like first generation. Like the reason the Doctor lived with him, and the reason that nobody seems to know what Rakusho is Rakusho would have been like an original experiment, potentially a private experiment performed by the Doctor that nobody knew about. The Doctor took like he made the body, or he took a prototype body that Dr. Aki was maybe already working on, and he's like, yeah, you can take one, it's fine. Or actually, no, because they explicitly say that Dr. Aki wouldn't have been able to do what he did if the doctor who lived with Rakusho, we keep saying made, but maybe Rakusho even predates the doctor. The, the doctor who Rakusho lived with is the one who wrote the theory that Medabots are literally based on. So Dr. Aki took that theory, brought it to fruition, actually made it happen, and that's how we get all these robots.
Mm-hmm.
The one who wrote that theory is the doctor who lived with Rakusho. I'm making a whole bunch of assumptions
The Doctor Who
and
lived. Sorry.
saying that he created him and that he was the first. Who knows? Maybe Rakusho was just straight up dug up and like woke up one day and they were like, "Oh, you work? That's weird." Because they don't. I mean, I don't know. These are all potentially possible, both because this is anime and insane, and because they haven't told us anything. We don't know anything.
That is true, but I don't want to have us harp on this episode for too much longer, so I want to go ahead and go into our theories for the next three episodes real
What do we
quick.
got for names?
So, episode 16, Metabee versus Rokusho. I think that's pretty much
That feels
standard. What we're gonna
self-explanatory. They've
get.
already fought, but that
Yeah,
feels self-explanatory. Like I am a little disappointed because are we gonna do the whole Metabee's gonna get mad at Rakusho for some perceived slight and like or be like, since you're not gonna train me, I'll fight you or something stupid. I'm worried they're gonna do something dumb with it where they're gonna regress him and Icky again, and that's just gonna be the running thing. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can just do the thing. You don't have to keep
I know.
regressing the character. And it's going to be frustrating
I
if they do
know.
it the entire show because it's going to be like you have to keep resetting them to make it happen and you're not doing it to anyone else. It's not good writing and there's no reason for it. You can still have the conflict without that. You can just have him want to fight him. They've established how obnoxiously overpowered Rokusho is. He one-shots everything. He literally one-shots the bad guy in the previous episode. Just bops him on the head and he wins.
That's true. Um, episode 17, use the Metaforce, also known as Discovery of Metaforce.
Oh, I know what that is because I remember what that is. Do you know what that is at all? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Nope,
Okay, so I know what that
not at
is.
all.
That episode will introduce that as a concept because that's clearly what it's going to do. Uh, it's self-explanatory. I'm very sorry that it's self-explanatory, but I don't want to spoil, so I'll let you discover with the episode.
I'm gonna go with my little theory on what the Metaforce is
Hmm.
real quick. It's an innate ability that's within all Metabots. That's like another like line of code that they didn't have access to, but then all of a sudden they go into like some sort of hyperactive mode, and then boom, there you go. That's all I'm assuming.
The G Gundam Gold mode.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. Yeah, it's the generic super mode that you get in shonen anime, which this is literally made for children. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
And then number 18, 15 minutes of shame.
Oh, I know what I want that to be episode to be. What about you, sir?
Are you thinking it's going to be of Seamus
Oh,
Makrika?
I really hope he comes back. I'm really hoping Seamus is back. I'm really hoping it's the Seamus Erica episode again because oh, that'd be great, and it would really. I I also think that episode, wherever it fits in the original run, is a solid choice after the two before it, because Metabee
Hmm.
versus Rakusho and Metaforce are both going to be serious and dramatic, and it's nice to have a just dumb one afterwards to just kind of decompress.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really hoping that it's a Seamus episode. Get another Seamus versus
Sh-
Erica, and it'll be like Seamus just he like takes a picture completely out of context and drags one of the main casts, and they spend the episode
Yep.
trying to like save their reputation and name. Oh, it'll be great. Oh man.
I honestly think that's probably what it's going to be like. I'm right along with you
Really
on that
hope that
one.
is. Pretty
Uh,
sure Seamus recurs, and I hope he does.
but yeah, that's everything for episodes 13 through 15. I think we did a pretty good job on diving into that. But Will, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Um, I will say that I don't think this show is as much a victim of the thing we talked about earlier, where it gets rewritten and reordered. But we'll see as it goes on. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they take some massive liberties kind of
Oh
out of
no, it
nowhere.
does.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah, looking at the timeline as to when certain episodes get released, uh, I'm just gonna tell you this one right now. Episode 35 or 39 in for the first season ending. Technically, that's episode 39 in Japan. That's episode 26 for the dub.
Oh boy, I have questions. Oh,
And
that's really
then
confusing.
episode 30 for the Japanese version is episode 39 for the dub.
Ah, oh boy,
If you want to get into some real nastiness here,
oh boy.
episode 6, which we have not seen yet,
Of the Japanese dub?
episodes of the Japanese
What the
dub,
heck?
it's called Spaceship Superstars. That is number 27 for the American dub.
Um, um, oh boy. Okay, now I'm starting to wonder if they just completely rewrote most of this show. Because, well, I have a lot of questions. I'm really curious what the Japanese version of this show is. Like, holy cow.
And so, you know how we have 7, 8, 9, 10, right?
Okay,
So that's Cyan Dog Bites Back for Better or Worse Part 1 and 2 and Mystery Metabot.
okay.
9, Cyan Dog is number 9. For Better or Worse Parts 1 and 2 are 10 and 11.
Hmm.
Mystery Metabot is 12. They're in sequential order, but
They moved.
we're obviously off.
I, that's a lot of shift. You know, it's times like those I really want to talk to the people who made these shows and be like, why? Like, if it's a
I
filler
don't
that
know,
they
man.
just moved around for personal reasons, then fine, because this show genuinely has filler episodes that are, it's fine, wherever you put them is fine. They're meant to break up, like, the pacing on purpose. But, like, but other than that, like, there are, e- certain episodes make less sense if you throw off the order too much, because heaven forbid there's a character that like isn't introduced yet, or a character's introduction happens way late and you're like, oh, they've already talked to this guy, is this a flashback? And then they like genuinely
Well,
call it a flashback and you're like, oh, okay, that's, you didn't have to do that.
it looks like the second season onward for the American dub, it's all aired correctly.
Huh. So it was only a season one thing.
Making sure. Correct. Yep, only just a season 1
So
thing.
season one in America is 1 through 56.
No, 1 through 39.
Okay. And in Japan it was the same thing, season one quote unquote ended at 39, or Japan was the
52.
so Japan was the true run. Oh wow, that leaves a lot of
Yeah.
questions. Did they cut a ton out?
And I don't know, but I can tell you this. On my Japanese Blu ray, it actually has all 52 episodes on one disc.
Huh. That tells you how much smaller those files are compared to, actual like high def files.
No, the American dub is still standard def.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Standard def is much smaller than high def.
The Japanese version is still standard def too.
Yeah, because yeah, and the show was originally 4:3 hand animated, so they haven't gotten to their digital seasons yet.
I don't know, man, because they could have technically fit them all on one disc, regardless for the American version, but they didn't. But it's whatever.
I don't know, man. I am left
But
with so many questions and very few answers.
we're gonna get there.
Oh boy.
But that is it for this evening. Will, did you have a good time this evening?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Good. I hope that you enjoy the next 3 episodes as
Me
well.
too.
As for this show, glad you all listened. If you did, great. If you watched it, even better, because I hope you paid attention to any of the random, inserts that I got in here. But stay tuned because we've got more and we've got specials sitting on the sides too. So go check those out. We talk about Pacific Rim, and then yeah, Pacific Rim. That's some good shit right there. Anyways, this is Sean,
And this is Will.
and you've been listening to Big Mecha, but not huge. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, Kingfisher 3.